Hello, hello everyone, it's Alex with the Seattle Guitar Store, and it's time for another installment of the Year of the Pedal. Today we're going to take a look at Earthuaker Device's Grand Orbiter, which is roughly categorized as a phaser pedal, but like so many Earthuaker devices, it does a whole lot more. Now, what does a phaser pedal do, or what is phasing? Well, without getting into the physics or the math of it, you can think of a phaser as taking a copy of a signal and changing the way the phase of the signal works. Now that's different than shifting it in time. It affects how the peaks and valleys of the signal work, and by playing one copy against another, you get an interesting effect with it. Now the way most phasers work is that they'll change what that phase inversion is like over time, so it will oscillate back and forth. Now the Grand Orbiter is actually sort of two pedals in one sense. So when you look at these controls, really the first thing you should look at is you should decide whether you want it to operate in phaser mode or in vibrato mode. And that's controlled by this switch right here. This is phase vibrato. Now, as I said earlier, phasing has a lot to do with this concept of oscillating, of changing back and forth over time. And that's controlled at a high level by this rate switch, which has three settings, 1, 2, and 3. And then you can fine tune each one with the rate knob. So rate 1 is a slow rate, and if you see this LED here on the side, you see it kind of light up slowly. That lets us know we're in slow mode. If we switch it over to rate 3, we go much faster, and then depending on where I set the rate knob, that'll sort of fine tune it. Rate 2 is sort of a funny thing because rate 2 will actually disable the oscillator, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute. So let's talk about the remaining controls. We've already talked about the rate knob. The resonance knob is going to affect how much of the signal is fed back through and continues to regenerate and go through the phasing process. So basically turning up more will give you more. The sweep knob is going to affect where the peak frequency is. And so if you want a little more high end in the sound, turn the sweep to the right. Otherwise, if it's too bright, you can turn it down to the left. And then the depth is going to affect kind of the amount or the range of phasing, if you want to think of it that way. So let's start with the real basic phaser sound. I'm going to set the resonance all the way up. I'm going to put the rate at rate 1 and kind of in the middle, and you can kind of see it's got really slow pulse there. That took a while. And we'll set something like that. All right, I'm going to turn this on. And to me, this kind of reminds me of sort of early Police, Andy Summers kind of sound. Okay, now you can hear that there is that kind of swirling sound to it, but it's really slow, and you can see that that's backed up by how slowly the rate light comes on and it goes off, okay? Let's try something different. Let's move over to the rate 3 setting, and this time we're going to turn that up, and we're also going to turn up the sweep. We're going to give ourselves a little more high end, and I'm going to switch to the bridge pickup, and to me this kind of sounds like a sort of crazy 70s Parliament kind of sound. All right, so that's a different kind of sound you can go for if that's what you're interested in. Now let's take a look at the vibrato mode. So when we switch over to vibrato mode, the knobs work a little bit differently. In vibrato mode, the sweep knob basically doesn't do anything, so we don't need to worry about that. The resonance knob is going to affect how much pitch shifting we get, and basically to really get the most out of the effect, you want to turn the resonance all the way to the left. In this case, the depth knob is going to function basically like a volume knob, and normally it's mixing wet and dry signal, but in this case, when you go into vibrato mode, the dry signal completely disappears. So if I turn this all the way to the left, I don't get any signal. All right, now I'm getting signal, okay? And then of course we have the rate controlled by the rate switch and then the rate knob. And so in this setting, I get something kind of like this. right? A pretty warped out sound and very different from the phaser because you can actually hear the pitch rising and falling as opposed to hearing those kind of frequencies notch against each other and move around. So really different sort of sound. So very cool device. Like so many Earthquaker devices, you're really rewarded by just locking yourself in a room and playing with the knobs and see what you can come up with. Now remember, this version of the Grand Orbiter with this custom artwork you can only get at the Seattle Guitar Store, either in person in the lovely city of Seattle, Washington, or online at seattleguitarstore.com. And hey, while you're online and checking out the site, be sure to scroll down, sign up for the newsletter, and that's going to give you inside access to a lot of special deals, a lot of really cool in-store clinics that we're going to do, and a chance to win this pedal or any of the other pedals that we featured in the Year of the Pedal.